Hello everyone, how are you today? Hope you guys are good. Welcome to today's lectures. Today we're going to deal with standard costing and variance analysis. Okay, so what is standard costing? Standard costing are predetermined cost. Okay, so we're going to deal with standard costing looking at the four standards. Now, I will explain these four standards and how does this standard affect employees. Remember, that's a focus. It's an advanced paper. The focus is not just to define, but what's the impact of the definition? How does that affect employee? This is a management course, and management accounting is based on management decision. What management impose on employees. So how does it affect? So let me share my screen. Here. So this is going to use an Excel for this computation. Okay. So now remember I mentioned that we'll focus on standard costing and variance analysis. Permit me to share. Okay. So standard costing and variance analysis. I mentioned the four standards. Four standard we're talking about. One, I'll look at ideal standard. Ideal standard. I'm looking at attainable standard. Attainable standard. I'll be looking at current standard. Looking at basic standard. These are the four standards. So we explain these standards and how does the standard affect management? Sorry, employees. Okay, and I will explain the standard based with an example. Let's take an example for the production of cake. Production of cake. Okay, the cake required 12 eggs. The cake that we want to make require 12 eggs. Okay, 6 cups of flour. Okay, and let's say 2 cups of sugar. Okay, so let's stick to these 3 ingredients. We have other ingredients, but for understanding purpose, let's stick to these 3 ingredients for what we want to produce. What's an ideal standard? An ideal standard, best of the best, right? Ideal best. It's a standard set that does not create any room for wastage, does not create any room for allowance. Standard, ideal standard, set ideal, best standard, no room for allowances, no room for wastage. Think of it. You as an employee, you are producing a cake. You need these materials to do the cake, and the person provides this material exactly to you without any allowance for wastage. What will happen to you? Will you be motivated? No. You will be demotivated because there is no room for wastage, and it's possible that you have some waste along the production line. So that's an ideal standard set, and it will demotivate employees. Don't forget, ideal standard demotivate employees. Okay? Now, let me give an example. What if we have been doing the same cake? The last year, we did the same cake, but what we did, let's go previous. Let me do previous. Previous. We did this, but we provided at the time 15 egg instead of 12. We provided 7 cups of flour instead of 6 right now, and we provided 3 cups. Yeah. So we provided 3 cups of sugar instead of 2 cups. Remember, this same ingredients we provided previously yield the same result we want to achieve this year, right? So now, if we provide this same ingredient now, 15 eggs, 7 cups of flour, 3 cups of sugar. If we provide the same now, that will be current standard. No effect. It has no effect on employee. That's current standard. Okay? Now, what if we provided 13 eggs instead of 12? We provided 13 eggs. Instead of 6, we provided 6.5. Instead of 2, we provided 2.5. So what has happened? We've created some room for allowances and wastage, even though it's not enough to the current, but we created some that is attainable standard. Attainable standard here means you create some rooms, you leave some space, you give room. You understand? You set a standard that creates some allowances for wastages. Get it? So that is attainable standard. You created some allowances. Is that okay? So like I was saying, so if what we did last year exactly provide the same this year, that become current standard. No effect. Basic standard. What's basic standard? Basic standard is a long-lasting standard remain unchanged. Considering the technological world development, things are changing in the world every day, and organizations set a standard that remain unchanged. Will that affect employee? Yeah, sure. It affects employee. Very good. So it demotivates employees. Basic standard demotivate employees. That being said, now we move to variance analysis. Variance analysis. I'm going to deal with 6 variances. My first variance I will look at is planning and operational variance. I will also look at material mix and yield. This is 2 variance. Planning, operations, 2 variance. Mix, yield, another 2 variance. So this gives us 4 variance. The last variance I will look at is sales, mix, and quantity variance. So there are 2 variants: sales, mix, and quantity variance. So I'm going to start my lecture with planning and operational variance. Okay. So planning and operational. What's planning and operational variance? Before I explain this topic, why do we calculate variance? What is variance? So variance is the difference between standard and actual. That's variance. So why do we need to calculate variance? What's the essence? Okay, so we want to, for variance is a feedback way to make correction organization to know who is to be held responsible, how is not to be held responsible, what can be corrected and what cannot be corrected. Okay, it's an appraisal tool. You can also use variance to appraise the manager whether they are doing well or they are not doing well. Get it? Okay. So what is planning variance talking about? Planning variance is a variance that we calculated using our old budget, old standard, and revised standard. What's the revised? The time we set the budget, we didn't take into consideration something that will happen in the future that are outside the control of the company. Okay, So when those things bring into play, we revise the budget again. And when we revise the budget, so we compare that old standard to the budget, the revised standard. The result we get from that one, we call that planning variance. Now, having revised the budget, we have our current budget now. We compare that one to the actual result. The figure we get here, we call that operational variance. That's the operational variance. Is that okay? So now we dealt in details. How do we calculate planning variance and operational variance? I can derive a definition for planning and operational variance from our basic variances we learned at our management level. Okay, at management level, we learn some variances. We learn material price variance. We learn material usage variance. We said material price variance comparing the price of standard and actual. Remember? So we say we do standard price minus actual price multiplied by actual quantity from our basic variance. It's our material price variance formula. Material usage variance, so it's standard usage minus actual usage multiplied by standard price. These are basic variances we did from management level perspective. Okay. Now we are advancing these variances. So this variance can be split into two. This also can be split into two. This can be split into planning and also operational variances. Same for material usage variance, can be divided into planning and operational. Just a breakdown from the basic variance. Okay. Now, how can we generate planning variance? Remember, I told you planning variance is being generated from the difference between the old budget, which we call the standard, and the revised. The revised is called the new budget. Okay? Old standard and new standard. And the operational is from the new standard to the actual result. Get? Okay. So now let's do the formula. Material price planning variance. So we still get to our standard price minus revised standard price multiplied by revised quantity. This is the formula used by the recent examiner for ACCA. But if before this time we were also using multiplied by actual quantity, this is also correct. The old examiner for performance management was using the actual quantity. This new one is going with the revised quantity. So whichever way you calculated it is correct. Okay, but I'm going to calculate it using the current examiner's approach. So we are using the revised quantity. Sound good? Okay. Now, and for material planning usage variance. Material planning usage variance. So we are still on planning variance. Now the usage. We've done the price, now the usage. So usage, standard usage minus revised standard usage multiplied by standard price. Okay. Now let's do some comparison with the basic standard. The basic standard for material price variance as calculated earlier, we said it is standard price minus actual price multiplied by actual quantity. So what do you notice? Good. We replaced the revised with actual. That's the only difference. Still the same formula, replace revised with actual. So you see actual here. Where you get your actual, revised price, revised quantity. Just replace the same formula, but replace actual with revised. Simple now. Okay. So let's do the operational. So we have material operational price variance. We have material operational usage variance. So these first two variants we can blame. Can we blame the management? Can we blame managers for that? No. Planning variance is outside the control of managers, so we cannot blame managers. We can hold managers responsible for operational variances. Managers are not responsible for planning variances. Okay, so these two variants in the black, managers can be held responsible for it. So what's is material operational planning variance? So what's the material operational planning variance? Here now we are comparing the revised standard price minus the actual price. You get it? Multiply by revised quantity. Okay? Sorry, actual quantity. Actual quantity. So it's revised standard price minus actual price multiplied by actual quantity. For the material operation usage variance, revised standard usage minus actual usage multiplied by revised standard price. Okay, so so let's bring in some calculations to justify our variance computations. Let's see how we can demonstrate these variances. Looking at discussions here, I have some questions here that we can use to justify, to calculate these variances. Okay, question 1. Required. Calculate material price and usage variances. 2. Split above into planning and operational variance. Okay, so we calculate the material and price variance and we split it into operational and planning variance. Okay, so let's down to the question. MCO estimated that each unit will take 2 kg of material and will cost $3 per kg. Actual production was 1,000 units, which consumed 2,500 kg of materials at a total material cost of $8,000. It was then realized that the standard should have been each unit take 2.8 kg at a cost of 3.5 kg. Okay, so let me set the format for us here that will be very helpful. Because we are dealing with planning and operational variance, we know we are not only looking at actual and standard, but we also look at what revised. So I'll set a table. My first table will be standard information. My second will go for revised information, and my third will go for actual information. So my standard says, let's go to the question. MCO estimated that each unit will take 2 kg. 2 kg standard. Each unit will take 2 kg at a cost of how much? $3. Cost of $3 per kg. We have our actual production. Actual production, how much? 1,000. Okay, 1,000 units, which is very helpful. Actual production. And what's the actual result? Actual result, we have 2,500 kg. 2,500 kg from the question, and it cost how much? $8,000. It cost $8,000. So what is our cost per material? So the 2,500 kg cost us $8,000. How much 1 kg cost us? So the cost of 1 kg would be cost of 1 kg, cost of, let's say, cost per kg, cost per kg would be 8,000 divided by 2,500. What's the cost per kg? $3.2. $3.2. Correct? Yeah, $3.2. That's the cost per kg. So we have our standard information, we have our actual information. What's our revised information now? What happened after? It was then realized that the standard should have been each unit take 2.8 kg at the cost of 3. So this is our revised information. So our revised information now, we have here 2.8 kg at what? At $3.5. These are our revised information. So we have our standard, we have revised, we have actual. Now we are good to go. Okay, so let's move on with the calculation now. Now we are good to go. So our material price variance first. Let's go. Material price variance. Remember, I said it's a standard price minus actual price multiplied by actual quantity. Our standard price, we have 3 minus our actual price, we calculated it to be 3.2, but the actual quantity is 2,500. This gives us our variance. But before we get the variance, what will this variance be? Is it a favorable variance or an advanced variance? Now, our standard price was 3. Hey guys, thank you so much for your attention today. Well done. You guys have been so cooperative. Okay, so we're going to end the class here today. We don't have enough time. We'll continue the class next week. And in our class next week, we'll complete this question that we've started already and several other questions. We'll take some questions from ACCA past question as well that relates to planning and operational variance. Okay, see you in the next class. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.